Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Movin' Right Along, a Muppet movie podcast brought to you by toughpigs.com. It's the podcast where we watch The Muppets Take Manhattan 2 minutes at a time and talk about it a lot. I'm your host, Anthony Strand.
And I'm your other host, Ryan Rowe.
And joining us today, we have a return guest from last week. Always a thrill. Guest, remind us who you are.
Hi, I'm still Tansy Rayner Roberts.
Wonderful. Glad to hear it. And Tansy is joining us today for minutes 51 and 52 of The Muppets Take Manhattan. In these minutes, Kermit and Piggy make up and go for a carriage ride. So we open with Kermit and Piggy yelling, kind of alternating, which I always
It's beautiful.
So funny. Yeah, it is. Well, and there's just something about the alternating mouths opening and closing too.
Just the visual of the Muppets. Yeah.
Yeah, especially Kermit has that 90-degree angle mouth when it's open. You know, it's there's something so pure about it.
This was a very funny place to begin a clip.
Yeah, it really was.
Screaming at each other.
Yeah, we just jump right in, and then of course Gregory Hines urges them to calm down. He kind of does the lowering his hands slowly motion to get them to calm down. Is
actually sort of it synchronizes with Kermit and Piggy panting because they're both going
yeah,
and then he's sort of his hands are moving in sync with them. Their bodies moving as they pant from exhaustion.
You're right. It's like I mean I'm sure it was choreographed, but it kind of feels like choreography.
Yeah. Well,
which is
Gregory Hines, dancer.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and even when he's just lowering it, moving his hands up and down, he moves like a dancer. It's kind of incredible. And speaking of Gregory Hines and his love of movement, then once the two have calmed down, he says, keep the skates. Keep the skates. I never use them anyway. I just like to run around in shorts.
Glorious closing line.
Love it.
So
glorious closing
good.
line. And then he turns around and he runs back again in that direct line. The same direct line he arrived in.
Exactly the way that he came in. It's so good.
Yeah. So he basically is maximizing his screen time for a very short appearance.
Absolutely.
But he's on camera for the longest possible amount of time, which
he
you got to
also
admire.
kind of runs his thumbs along his waistband before he turns around, which is just this kind of yeah, here I go.
Well, he loves the shorts, you know?
He does, yeah.
Yeah, he's rocking the outfit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So anyways, that's a wrap on Gregory Hines, unfortunately. What a joy to see him.
Oh, just such a good appearance. And as I said, making the most of a short scene, highly memorable.
For sure. Like I said, it's made me a fan of his for 30 years, you know?
Yeah. So many children of so many generations will know who he is largely because of this.
Because of this movie, yeah. So then, having made up with Piggy, Kermit notices the carriage rides and hails a driver real quick.
Although, have they really made up?
It sure seems. I mean, I guess so. Next time we see them, they are made up.
It's true. Certainly. So they've both expressed to each other that the reason they're so emotional, I guess, is that they care about each other. But they've still just been yelling at each other. Although I guess in Kermit and Piggy's sort of dysfunctional relationship, that counts as making up.
Right. Well, and of course they're about to go for a ride around the park.
Right. So this is like a romantic gesture on Kermit's part to sort of smooth things over.
But I was going to say, in The Great Muppet Caper, they also yell at each other and then go for a romantic bike ride in the park.
That's true. Yeah.
Both
so it's like a stage to their relationship.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
Not together, there's fighting, and then there's on a date. And that is the progression. And then it just cycles around.
Yeah, it's not the healthiest relationship.
Right?
No.
Yeah. Can I just say about this transition? Because they're looking at each other, he calls the cab, and then it cuts to them in the cab. It is not established whether or not she is still wearing the skates, and if so, whether they are untied for the entire rest of the scene. And I just want you to keep that in mind as we watch the rest of the scene.
I never thought about it. You're absolutely right.
He told her to keep the skates. He never got to the point of taking them off her feet. I assume they're still on her feet.
So we don't see her feet when she's in the carriage.
No,
we don't.
Sitting there.
I feel like we might later, after it comes out of the fantasy sequence, like when she's laying on Kermit's lap, do we see her?
Maybe that's out of my boundaries.
I just at the 37-second mark of this clip, there is, as the carriage goes by that pond, you do catch a brief glimpse of Piggy's feet, and she's wearing the skates. I never noticed that before.
She's still wearing the skates.
Wow, that is amazing. Yeah, I love that.
That is great. So she keeps them forever. That's important to know. I
guess so, yeah. Maybe she's using them to skate around Pete's when she becomes a waitress later.
But most importantly, they did not try to film a scene in which she transitioned from standing on grass to being in a carriage while wearing skates. We didn't need to see that.
Right. It would have had to be like a 10-minute set piece.
That would have been really funny, but it would have interrupted the flow. Yeah. But have you guys ever taken a horse-drawn carriage ride anywhere?
I have. Not in Central Park because I've never been to New York.
Mm-hmm.
But they actually have them in. They actually do have them here in Hobart, where I live in Tasmania. But I've never ridden one locally. But they do have them in City of Melbourne, and I've ridden in one with. I think when my kids were small, we went on a ride with it, and it was. Especially I think my youngest was very small at the time, was kind of terrified the whole time. But it was, it's a nice way to see a city. It's seen as a touristy thing to do.
Well,
it is a very indulgent touristy thing, and it's,
Yeah, and I know the ones in Central Park are not without controversy because they have to like take the horses out of the park and they're, where all the traffic is and the noise and the pollution. So, They do still exist. I know when the current mayor, Bill de Blasio, was campaigning, he talked about trying to do away with them, but that was not a popular position, I guess. So they are still around. I've never done one myself. I have ridden in a pedicab pedaled by a human, which is, I guess, not quite the same. But
I have been on a horse-drawn hayride before.
I think I've done that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole horse and carriage thing, particularly in Central Park, it is a romantic trope, right? It's it's a cheesy date option. It's, that's how it's framed, as a thing that you do as a couple. And
right.
Yeah.
You do see families with like little kids doing it, but it's mostly couples.
Right. Well, which does bring us to who we're about to see, who I don't believe are a couple, but they're certainly having a nice time out. As Kermit and Piggy are enjoying their ride, another carriage goes by with Statler and Waldorf in it.
It is beautiful. I love the fact that they instantly review Kermit and Piggy's relationship. It's a literal drive-by. They go past, they see that they're getting romantic, they make fun of them, and then even after they're off camera, they're like yelling stuff at them.
That's my favorite part.
Hey,
they do this.
Hubba.
They do this joke, and they're woo, lovey-dovey.
Yeah.
Well, what I love is the idea that this is what they're doing is just insulting everyone in every carriage as they pass.
Yeah, absolutely. That's their
what
afternoon.
The goal of the ride is. Yeah, exactly.
Do you think they recognize? Is this sort of one of the more meta moments of this movie? Because as we've discussed, this is a Muppet movie where they don't acknowledge they're in a movie. So is this like Statler and Waldorf, the characters, recognizing Kermit and Piggy, the characters that they know from the other Muppet movies on the Muppet Show?
I don't think so, because of what their specific dialogue is, right? Okay. Statler says, "Hey, look, Waldorf, it's a frog and a pig." Not it's the frog and the pig.
Oh,
right?
Well, so that's interesting.
They know each other.
Right.
Which is interesting because these characters were in theatre at university, and I refuse to believe that Statler and Waldorf were not there reviewing them at the time.
Right. That's true. Although, as we talked about earlier, this is the second time we've seen Statler and Waldorf in the movie.
Right.
And the first time they didn't say anything. They're just they have that cameo on a park bench sunbathing with their...
It's interesting, isn't it? Talking about the meta aspect. As soon as you take the Muppets away from their original place of concept of running the Muppet Show on TV, whenever they bring in Statler and Waldorf, it's finding ways for those characters to be there and kind of be on brand, even out of the original context. And I just love this idea of them riding around in a carriage reviewing, because that's what they do, booing people, commentating on their lives, pointing at things and laughing. Like, it's joyous. I choose to believe they're still there.
Yeah, it's sort of the challenge with a lot of these supporting Muppet characters outside the Muppet Show, where it's like, how do they work in Statler and Waldorf? How do they work in the Swedish Chef? And, and so on. But yeah, in the March 7th, 1983 draft, the joke is different. Statler says, Waldorf, look, the frog and the pig. Waldorf says, I guess this must be the romantic part. And they look at each other and they both go, yuck, which is not as funny.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
And it also acknowledges that they know who they are.
Yeah, they recognize the frog and the pig.
And it also acknowledges that they're in a movie, which, as we've talked about, this is the only one where they never actually do that.
Yeah.
This is the only Muppet movie that at no point acknowledges that it's a movie.
Yeah, so I guess that's why they changed that.
But that makes me even sure that was a conscious decision to not break the fourth wall. You know?
Yeah. That feels like Frank Oz's attempt to make this more grounded than the others. Less wacky.
This is the gritty one.
It is,
right?
The gritty, realistic one.
Yeah, it's weird how true that is. Because that's
why there are so many rats in this movie.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
But so, anyways, then Statler and Waldorf, they ride away in their carriage, yelling "woohoo, lovey-dovey, hubba hubba" at Kermit and Piggy. Before we move on, I want to make sure that we do mention the carriage driver for Kermit and Piggy is Jim Henson.
Yeah.
Oh.
I
wasn't sure because I could notice the top hat and stuff, but I didn't see close enough.
Right, he never gets a close up. And we talked a few episodes ago about how the helpful women aren't Kathy Mullen and Karen Prell, which people sometimes think they are. That's what IMDb claims. But this one really is Jim Henson. And
see, that's better in itself because it's like, I'm sorry, but like if he's driving the carriage, then who's being Kermit?
Right.
How many hands did this man have?
Right. Although I do kind of wonder if, and he's not in the shot of Kermit and Piggy. When we see Kermit and Piggy close up now, when Piggy apologizes for yelling, she says she didn't mean it when she said it would have been better if they never met, all that stuff. She talks for about 25 seconds in a row before Kermit says anything.
Yeah. He's just kind of.
It doesn't require him to contribute.
Looking off to the side and then very slowly looks at her.
So I do kind of wonder if that's partially because Jim was driving, driving the carriage and someone else was performing Kermit. So they didn't want to give him a lot to say or something. I don't know.
Although this is we see them sitting on the seat of the carriage, right? So it probably wasn't filmed while the carriage was actually.
I suppose not.
Or is it moving? I mean, it might have been just like a rig on wheels with a place for them to stick their arms up through.
It's very symmetrical, isn't it? It looks like a little set and set piece, and the fact that the camera is, presumably that part is not actually in a carriage.
Yeah,
right.
Actually, it's interesting. The one with Statler and Waldorf, we just see them from the shoulder up, so that's probably just a regular carriage, and the puppeteers are just kind of hunched on the bottom, sticking their arms up. But then, the one with Kermit and Piggy, we do see this closer shot head on of the two of them. So I bet that was built. Oh, although it is moving. So it was probably just being pulled by a little golf cart or something.
Some sort of rig. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, however they are being carried, Piggy says to Kermit, I wish we'd met sooner. Wouldn't it have been wonderful if we'd known each other when we were little?
Yeah. See, in the last episode, we talked about Piggy doing her brand, dropping brand names. In this one, she's clearly pitching the prequel.
Right, exactly.
She's never one to shy away from the next opportunity.
That's funny. Piggy's like, Kermit, I got a great idea for a Saturday morning cartoon.
Well, and she basically does say it. She says, imagine little Kermit and little Piggy.
Yeah.
And it could basically say, coming this fall to CBS Saturday morning.
Yeah. She says, little Kermit, little Piggy.
Little Piggy, right?
Yeah.
Which is adorable because it sounds like, because obviously then we're going to dissolve into her fantasy momentarily.
Yeah. Yes.
But the way she says it almost sounds like she's falling asleep.
Yeah. That's she's even boring herself. No. Yeah, I do love a fantasy sequence. And of course, as we've always seen, Miss Piggy has a more heightened sense of fantasy than any other character, I think.
Right. Well,
I mean, maybe Fozzie, but no, like her fantasy is always very well realized, very glamorous, or very kind of specific. She's very good at dissolving into other scenes.
Right. Well, it's something that I never thought about as a kid, is that all three of these movies have a song number that is Piggy's fantasy sequence.
I had never noticed that, Anthony, until you pointed it out a few years ago.
The Muppet movie has Never Before, Never Again, when she first sees Kermit.
Yeah.
And then Great Muppet Caper has the song Piggy's Fantasy, where she, does the water ballet and happiness, Miss Piggy, and all that. And then this one has this song where she imagines them as babies. And it's like, then that goes away, but it comes back in Muppets Most Wanted when she does Something So Right.
Yeah.
And like imagines her and Kermit having a family and growing old.
Don't they do something in Treasure Island? I have a feeling that there's like a flashback song or something.
Well, there's Love Let Us here where they're hanging upside down together.
That's a duet, but then
but it's intercut with the shots of the pirates finding the treasure.
Oh yeah, but she does have this strong sense of fantasy, and she's always been, of all of them, like they're all performers, but she's always been the one with the biggest dreams in a lot of ways, and because everybody else's dreams are often about like, maybe being famous or putting on a show and doing things together, but she's always got this vision of herself that's more glamorous or more successful or more, the celebrity self.
Yeah.
But this is interesting because it's more of the romantic fantasy, but also the kid thing, which is a little like, because the more you think about it, the more kind of weird it is as a romantic. It's like
it's very strange. Well, and honestly, that would carry over into the original version of the cartoon, where if you recall, the line about Piggy in the theme song is Piggy says, "I like romance."
Yes,
in the original version.
Her defining characteristic.
She's a girl. But also she is
because she's a girl, right? And that was a good change, I think, in the new version, where it's Kermit likes adventure, Miss Piggy is a star.
Right? That is better.
So there's no like toddlers are in love with each other,
Yeah. Or one toddler is trying to convince the other toddler to have a romantic relationship that he's just not equipped for, which is, uncomfortable.
And then they also do that thing on that show where Gonzo's hitting on Piggy all the time. Like,
that's weird.
Here's the thing. I always say people who think the old Muppet Babies is better than the new one have not
rewatched it.
Yeah. And also haven't watched the old one in 30 years.
I think a lot of people who saw more Muppet Babies than Muppet Show growing up sort of have the impression that that's an ongoing thing of Gonzo having a crush on Miss Piggy, which he kind of did in the first season of the Muppet Show, but it's really not part of their dynamic other than on Muppet Babies.
Yeah, and my memories of Muppet Babies are very strong, but also vague because I haven't rewatched them since I was a kid. Obviously, as with many people, don't have any access to the old Muppet Babies.
Yeah,
right.
But a very strong nostalgia for them, and I bought my kids a bunch. Whenever I would find these old Muppet books for my kids, I would grab them. And there was one picture book in particular I used to read to my kids, which is called Animal Go Bye-Bye.
Oh, we have that one.
It's a picture book. Yeah. It's a great picture. It was one of our favorites. We read it over and over, a baby animal. And actually, that's a dream sequence one too, because it's all about basically Kermit trying to convince Animal to go to bed because Kermit's a responsible one. And it goes into these sort of dream sequences as Animal, bigger and better, keeps trying to escape the consequences of going to bed, and it's glorious. But for my kids, that was actually their only exposure to Muppet Babies because we couldn't access the old show.
Yeah, like we have 2 VHS tapes of the old show.
Aww.
And our only VCR is downstairs. So my daughter, who's in kindergarten now, she's occasionally will pull them out, but for a long time it was Muppet Babies was the regular show we'd watch upstairs, and then the downstairs Muppet Babies was the
the downstairs Muppet Babies. Yeah. No, unfortunately, my kids were definitely too old by the time the new Muppet Babies came out.
Sure.
We did give it a go, but it was just too sweet. It was very sweet, but it was just like, no, my kids are too. My youngest is I mean, she's 11 now. I think she was 9 when we came across it, or 10.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, she's just too cynical now.
Yeah, my kids are 2 and 6.
Oh, see, that's the perfect age for little Muppet babies. Yeah.
My 2.5-year-old. I mean, Summer Penguin is the new character on the show.
Yeah.
And she has this song where she sings about being a detective called "I'm on the Case." And every time it comes on, Miles is like, on the case. Like, he's so excited.
Do you have any Summer Penguin merchandise?
No, we don't have Muppet Babies action figure. We have old Muppet Babies toys.
Yeah.
Like from Happy Meals in 1989.
Oh, everybody has those McDonald's Happy Meal toys.
Right. Yeah. So I love the idea that everybody has those, by the way.
Every Muppet fan, like, it's one of those things like the Great Muppet Caper Glasses. Those and the Muppet Babies Happy Meal toys and the Fraggle Rock Happy Meal toys where the Fraggles are all driving vegetables. Those are the things that are in every Muppet fan's collection.
It's true. It's true. At least here in the US, I'm sure you didn't get any of that stuff. Well, yeah, it might be different. Yeah.
No, we have had Muppet and merch over the years, but no, probably not those specific ones. Though I may be wrong. There may be people out there who have access to those, but where I live, we didn't even have like McDonald's until I was a teenager. So,
sure. You missed out on the Fraggle vegetable cars. A true loss.
It does sound good. Yeah, we only get a little bit of the introduction of the song, but we get a little glimpse of this baby Muppet world, and it is so familiar to me. Like when they made and I think I don't remember what I watched first, the Muppet Babies cartoon or this, and it may be that it's very likely that I watched the cartoon before I saw this, because I think this is one that I probably, I don't remember the order of watching any Muppet stuff. It's all a haze of childhood to me, really. But yeah, I think I was quite old when I realized that this sequence existed before the cartoon,
right?
And is probably like a backdoor pilot for the cartoon. But there are so many elements in this sequence that are carried directly over to the cartoon, like just things like the building blocks and the Kermit riding the little horsey thing, and it's just all so familiar to me. It just
yeah. And I think it's remarkable how much this set looks like the nursery that was on the cartoon. Like, it just feels like the same space.
Yeah, for sure. And Ryan and I will have plenty of time to talk about the song next week. But do you have any thoughts about the song itself before we close, Tansy?
I'm weirdly in love with this song. I don't know why, but it's one of those that will earworm me to death. And I was actually a little bit devastated that the scene cut out before my personal favorite line from the song, which is the weird juxtaposition of, just to like spoil you all for next week, the weird juxtaposition of gonna climb the Matterhorn, but only until my children are born, which I think sums up the glorious mess that is Miss Piggy. But this sense of like, she has all the dreams, which I think is kind of a beautiful thing about her as a character. Like, she has all the ambitions. She wants all the careers, but she also wants to be like the wife and mother and that sort of thing. Like, she wants everything.
She wants it all. Yeah,
she's gonna be a good mommy too.
Yeah, she's gonna be a good mommy too. But but just that the ambition, the scope of all her dreams, but also the fact this is it's a fantasy sequence of her as a child thinking about what she's going to do as a grown-up. It's just so Miss Piggy, and it's so on brand, and it is seen as it's presented as a love song, but it's mostly about her, which I love.
Yeah, and I hadn't thought about that aspect of it, where it's a grown-up Piggy imagining herself as a baby, imagining the things that she's going to do when she's a grown-up. Yeah, that's really funny. I had not thought about that. I mean,
what is this, an episode of How I Met Your Mother? It's just so... it is, but it's very cool. And I love just that, like I said, it hits me in the nostalgia, just the sign of that nursery and them as kids and this Piggy scene, and that Rolf comes in with this banging piano just to lift the song, and it's just it's a great sequence, and I am very, very fond of it.
Yeah. And actually I have a note about that. So we do hear Ralph play this glissando to kind of after Piggy sings the slow opening part, and then he plays the glissando to go into the rockin' part of the song. Last summer, Joe Hennes and I from Tough Pigs interviewed Chris Surf, who is primarily a Sesame Street songwriter. But he noted that among the sort of only handful of times that he worked with these Muppet characters was when Frank Oz asked him to play the glissandos in this song because they needed somebody like a talented piano player who could do that sort of like up the piano like really hard and fast.
Wow.
Yeah, so he thought that he might have been credited in the credits as Glisses by Chris Surf. I don't know if that credit exists in the soundtrack liner notes or anywhere, but sadly he's only just in the special thanks credits of the end of this movie. But the Glisses are by Chris Surf.
That's awesome.
And it's so cool, but it's a little bit heartbreaking that you're suggesting that Ralph doesn't do his own piano playing.
Well, of course he does, but you know.
No, that's great. It is a very powerful moment, and that is one of the things I do enjoy about the Muppet Babies. I think actually did centered Ralph in a way that he never really gets centered in any of the main Muppet production stories.
I think that was an unfortunate side effect of him being Jim Henson. Also, that
I guess that makes sense.
It was hard for Kermit and him to interact much on the TV show, you know.
But also, he's a side. He's like definitely a side and support character. He's usually too cool to be in the main story, but you know he doesn't ever really get to be a protagonist. He's like a support of a support. But no, there is that sense. I remember very strongly from Muppet Babies that he's definitely an equal one of the team and gets his own adventures, which is nice. Yeah. He gets side quests.
Yeah, it would be nice to see him. Yeah, he was definitely a minor character on the Muppets ABC sitcom. It would be nice to see him get a little bit of even in one of those like YouTube videos that they've done, just to get a spotlight.
Well, yeah, considering he's the one that does he's the music guy, you'd think there would be a lot of opportunities for that.
Yeah, they never really did that.
Yeah. Just wondering how much of that as well is the whole thing of the characters that were originated as Jim Henson characters, and people always just really think about Kermit, like he gets all the attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, the others are kind of an integral part of that too.
Right. And I mean, Ralph, we'll see in the 90s, he hardly said a word after Jim Henson died. Bill Barretta didn't really start playing him until, I mean, what's his first big speaking part? It's probably like
behind the scenes of the Weezer video.
Behind the scenes of the Weezer video. Yeah, it's like 2002.
But then, even then, he still didn't say much until a few years later. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he says, there's an episode of Muppets Tonight, the Garth Brooks episode. He says or something.
He says, "Oh yeah," which was so exciting to us at the time. It's like, oh, Ralph talked.
It's like Ralph is back, Bill Barretta, yay!
Yeah.
But anyways, we're getting a little too deep into the weeds, I think. So, Tansy, any final thoughts before we close?
No, I'm just it. Yeah, no, it's just all about the Muppet Babies at this point. This is a lovely Miss Piggy segment. I really like how much it kind of showcases her, and I think it's very telling of her relationship with Kermit. Like, I think you can tell a lot from their relationship from this 2-minute sequence, from the screaming to the date where she's mostly talking about herself. To the fantasy dream sequence, because she's always so solidly set on Kermit as her other half, her partner, her romantic partner. Like, she's never really seriously looking for anybody other than Kermit. But also she doesnn't really require him to do that much other than like show up and be on her arms.
Yeah, you're so right.
She doesn't want to not have Kermit.
Right.
But also you get the impression that if he did have other things to do, he could just leave a cardboard cutout of himself and go off and get his work done. And maybe that's what led to the divorce.
Oh.
I do love what they did with their relationships in the it's not the Muppets Tonight. The Muppets, like the one that's like The Office, you know, the one that's the last one. Yeah. That I really loved, that way of presenting the idea of them as exes who, you know, keep, you know, ultimately nobody else is really in the picture. No matter how hard they try, you know, they're always drawn back to each other. I was really sad that show didn't get a second season, just because I thought what they were doing with their relationship. And it just makes sense looking at these earlier ones that obviously tell different versions of the same relationship. This Look,
Yeah.
this movie messed me up a bit as a kid. I remember because, watching them all in various orders. But I think I tried too hard to try and figure out where this fit in the chronology of things. And of course it doesn't. It's a distinct story. It's like, where does this fit in the context of the Muppet Show? I'm confused. How many times have they even got married? And I know my brain exploded a bit trying to fit this in with all the other Muppet timelines because they never all quite fit together.
Yeah, no, there's no unified Muppet theory.
But as a child, I tried to make sense of it all because that's the kind of brain I have. And yeah, this was more stressful than Doctor Who in trying to fit all the pieces together emotionally. But it's an odd. I have an odd relationship with this film because I always think of it as being the one that I'm less fond of all the classic Muppets movies, unless I'm actually watching it, in which case I'm completely in love with it and I remember how great it is.
Yeah.
Well, that actually works as a segue to our last question I want to ask you is, do you remember the first time you saw it? And I get sort of answered, where would you rank it among the Muppet movies?
See, it's tricky. I don't remember when I first saw it. I think it's, of all of them, it's probably the one that I saw the most of when I was younger, which may be why in my head it's less cool than The Great Muppet Caper, because that was one that I didn't get to see until later, and so it has that slightly harder to get quality about it all. But whenever I watch it, I love, there's so much in this that I love. For a long time I thought this was the second movie and The Great Muppet Caper was the third movie, and I don't know why, but in my head it was, to the point where even now I have to stop and remind myself that's not the order that they go in. Yeah, I don't know. I think ranking Muppet products is something that would take a lot more consideration and some kind of map, and I would have to get back to you on that. But as I said, it's one that I always am like, oh, this one, and then when I watch it, I love every second of it, so I don't know what I'm even thinking. It's so good. It's got so many good elements about it. I like that it's about show business, because the Muppet ones that are about show business are the best ones. I like all the versions of the characters. I love all the stuff with the cafe and the rats. It's a glorious one. And as I said before, it actually did shape. It was probably one of the earlier films in which I saw New York depicted. So it's actually really quite strongly, shaped what that city is like for me, as somebody who has never visited it and has seen lots of different versions of that city and lots of different pop culture.
Yeah.
But this was a very early one, so I think I must have watched it definitely at some point in the 80s. I must have watched it in my childhood, probably before a lot of other either Muppet things or just things generally. Yeah. I'm very fond of it. Yeah.
Great. Well, yeah, we are too. Ryan, I'm sorry, I didn't ask you. Did you have any other?
Well, I do. Yeah, actually, there's a major difference in the March 7th, 1983 draft, which is that there are no Muppet babies. It is a different fantasy sequence, and in fact, it's very interesting. All of the stuff you were saying earlier, Tansy, about what Miss Piggy wants and dreams about, and what she thinks about. So it's a montage. Here are the things that happen in the montage in this draft of the screenplay. So it says first Miss Piggy starts singing before it dissolves into her dream, and then first is Piggy and Kermit's wedding, and then it's their wedding night, and we see Piggy carrying Kermit into a room containing a heart-shaped bed.
Saucy.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow, that is the complete opposite of let's imagine when we were toddlers and completely innocent.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it says something like the rose petals everywhere, or something like that. And then we see Piggy in a living room running a vacuum cleaner while pregnant and looking radiant.
Wow.
Then a hospital room where Kermit is handing out cigars and Piggy is holding two little baby frogs with ping pong ball eyes, it specifies. So she's just given birth somehow to frogs. Then the baby's room where Kermit is smoking a pipe, and he and Piggy are watching lovingly as the babies play with Sesame Street toys. That's a nice touch. And Piggy is pregnant again. Then,
Whoa!
then another hospital room where Piggy is holding 3 baby pigs with blonde hair and long eyelashes.
Oh, so this is like what we saw in, obviously in the future in A Christmas Carol, where the boys are frogs and the girls are pigs. That's how
that
biology
idea
works.
came back later for sure.
Yeah.
Then there's a shot where like she's stepping out of a limousine and Kermit is carrying the kids at like a red carpet event or something, and then finally more. Yeah, so she's still going to be a glamorous star while having all these children with Kermit, and then finally more shots of the whole family. They're standing in front of a white mansion with a Rolls Royce, and the stage directions say, "Miss Piggy is as beautiful and serene as ever, and she stands there radiantly with an hourglass figure."
Well, at least she's not pregnant again.
Right.
Man, I am obsessed with this now. Like,
that's so interesting. And it's interesting how domestic it is. Like so many, especially of the first shots you see, it's all about the marriage and the relationship and the children and the family. And then you get a little bit of career stuff at the end. Was it the same song? Or does it not say?
No, I don't think it would have been. It just says something about like it should be a big romantic song and it should reach a climax at the end as we see but I don't think it would have been the same song.
It is so interesting too. Just thinking of the whole Disney and the musicals and the idea of the "I Want" song, like the song that's outlining, what you want from life or from potentially this movie. That's so interesting.
Yeah. And also, we've seen Piggy dream about her wedding to Kermit before in the Muppet movie in that fantasy sequence, but this is sort of taking it several steps further with all the kids and everything.
It's really specific, and it's also pitching a different show, which is a sitcom.
Yeah, it could be.
Well, and this will come back kind of in Muppets Most Wanted, where we do see Kermit and Piggy with 2 little babies, right? And then like growing old together. Yeah,
that's very similar too. I wonder if somebody working on that production knew about this draft or this pitch for the fantasy sequence and suggested using elements of it.
We should write James Bobin and Nick Stoller a letter.
I would love to, yeah. Let's have them on the podcast in a few years.
I'd love to have those guys on the podcast, yeah.
Yeah.
It is interesting looking at what we got, though, and in other words, what they replaced that with, which was something which was still a love song and was still about their future together, but had a lot more Piggy in it, like a lot more of all the other stuff she was going to do, as well as being the wife and mother. Whereas this is flat out, because there is a danger in focusing too much on the romantic drive that it then becomes like, that's the thing that she's there for because she's a female character and that's what she's interested in. And then it gets all unbalanced because Kermit wants to put on his show. And if her main focus is to marry him as opposed to also to become famous and put on a show, then she becomes that really quite uncomfortable trope of the lusty lady chasing after the guy who's not interested, which they do fall into from time to time. Kermit and Piggy. So,
I think it's just so hard to write Piggy and get it right, just strike that balance.
Absolutely. And it doesn't help that she is often the only main female character in a narrative that is, let's face it, largely being written and performed by men. So like the tendency to accidentally fall into something akin to a drag act is or just that cliches. It does happen. It's interesting to see them pull themselves back in a way. I always laugh about the Matterhorn and until the babies have one line, but it is very interesting, especially considering where this film ends up. There is that focus on them coming together at the end and all that, isn't there?
Right. Yeah,
which is what she wants.
Yeah, and it's fine for her to want that, but it's that. Oh, but the fact of actually going into the wedding night and the hospital room, and I'm immediately going, "This is too intimate."
I think, it would be too much to see Kermit and Piggy's honeymoon suite. I think
honeymoon suite. Yeah, I don't want any part of that.
But again, that thing of pitching a show, you can imagine. I don't know, perhaps because I've just come off, very into WandaVision at the moment in our family, speaking of Disney Plus. And a large part of that is satirizing the different eras of family sitcoms in particular, and the way that they tell stories. And immediately thinking of like a Bewitched style or I Love Lucy style 1960s sort of sitcom done in the 80s. I mean, the 80s family sitcoms, it's like your Growing Pains and Family Ties, only it's the Muppets. Can you imagine?
Yeah,
like, they could totally have made that show.
Like it just like the frog and pig family and everyone else in the neighborhood is human.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you think everyone else is human? You don't think Fozzie and those guys are the neighbors?
Oh, I guess that would be that's what you'd want to see. But
maybe you'd have the one human family in the street and everybody else.
Yeah,
that would be interesting.
That'd be good. Yeah, there's one.
Definitely going to give suburbia and like the kids. I'm thinking of like a Married with Children type thing. It's like the kids would definitely have to be like teenagers. Maybe you have one cute younger one, but yeah. Now I'm wondering if they like pitched a bunch of TV shows and whichever one won, it's like, oh, it's Muppet Babies, so we'll go with that version of the script for the movie.
There was, I don't remember when this happened, but there was a pitch for an animated series called Muppet High where they would have been in high school. I think that was several years after this, but yeah, that would have been fun to see. Why have they
never done that?
I don't know. They still could.
I was just thinking, just trying to imagine them as teenagers, and I'm just like, why does that feel more weird to me than anything else?
Yeah.
And it's because it's the only era of their lives we haven't seen. We've seen them as like kids in the nursery. We've seen them like in this, the idea of they've been at college together. And I would also totally watch the college theatre club Muppet show. I think that would be great.
Oh, yeah,
but the idea of them as teenagers just feels, it's like they should be sort of they should either be adults or they should be children. I don't know why the idea of teenagers is really flipping me out, but I would absolutely watch that. And it would be them putting on, it'd be like Glee, but Muppets, right? It would be for them putting on shows.
There was a series of books in the early 90s called Muppet Kids where they were like 10.
They're like 10-ish. Elementary school age.
Yeah. And we have one of those, and Gonzo lives with his grandma, his aunt, and his cousin in it. And it weirds me out so much because they all look like Gonzo, and he's just like part of a happy Gonzo family.
That's amazing. I'm just imagining the teenage Gonzo with his Letterman jacket and like just, all the cheerleaders are chickens and
Sure, yeah.
I read a couple of those Muppet Kids books, and I remember thinking they didn't necessarily seem exactly like they needed to be the Muppets. Like you could just change the names in the book, and it could just be any characters.
Yeah, they're not funny at all. Right. I mean, at all. But
it is this thing of suddenly adding family context to characters that don't have that is always a bit disturbing, isn't it? It's like just that. Yeah, the imaginary characters, and I think it often happened in the books where they'd suddenly get these extra characters or these extra support people, and it was weird.
Yeah, well, it's like when cartoon characters always end up with nephews.
Yeah,
like Mickey Mouse with his nephews Morty and Ferdy.
Yeah, it's like the new DuckTales, where actually they start seriously asking the question of what happened to Huey, Dewey, and Louie's mother, and it becomes a major plot point.
Yeah,
because this question had never seriously been addressed before. It's like there's always the nephews and nieces, but not the actual parents of the nephews and nieces.
Right. Well, and of course, Kermit the Frog also has a nephew. We should mention.
Yeah, but we never hear
about this movie, but.
No, we never hear about Robin's parents, do we?
Right.
I feel like Kermit has been asked that in an interview somewhere before, but I don't remember what his response was.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Well, I was also going to say it's interesting that in that script it mentions Piggy standing there looking radiant with an hourglass figure. This being written by Frank Oz, who I think it's in Jim Henson The Works, and maybe Anthony, you can correct me, but there's an anecdote about when the Muppet creative gang was looking at the first Miss Piggy calendars that were produced and just kind of flipping through the pages of her wearing these like glamorous clothes and in these poses. And Frank Oz said something like, "My God, she's sexy." So I find it interesting. That the same guy who said that is now focusing on Piggy's radiance and hourglass figure. So I don't know. He might have a little thing for this character that he performs.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? A little bit disturbing. I think she's always had that maturity and glamour about her in a way that the male Muppets are often, like, apart from, I guess, maybe Gonzo, who has the more active, romantic life than anybody else. But like the others are all just like, often they could be any age and they could be kids, but she's the one who's always thinking about like adult stuff, like relationships. And it could again be because she's the girl. But, you know, she's the one who's thinking about relationships and all the grown-up stuff. Like even just the fact that her fantasy doesn't include the honeymoon and having children, but it's specifically that routine, the being in the hospital and
the
cigars and all those little sort of life milestones. And like Kermit just wants to put his show on, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He's got to sell the show.
He's got to sell the show.
Like, he doesn't want to be living in the suburbs. He's going to be living in some skanky little one-room flat forever because he's an actor, honey. Like, he's not going to settle down. This is showbiz.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, there you go. And I think that's a good note to end on for today. So, Tansy, thank you so much for being here. As always,
thanks for inviting me. It's always a good excuse to watch a bit of Muppets.
I'm glad we can do that for you. Listeners, please check out toughpigs.com on the internet, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're all over the place. You can email us at movinrightalong@toughpigs.com. You can follow Ryan on Twitter at @MeRyanRowe. And Tansy, remind our listeners where they can find you online.
You can find me on Twitter at TansyRR. You can also listen to me on the Verity podcast talking about Doctor Who.
One of my favorites.
It's always nice to hear.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why we knew to invite you on the show, you know?
Absolutely, that's how you found me.
Right. And thank you to Stacey Rosen for writing our theme music and to Morgan Davey for designing our logo. And listeners, please give us the most positive review you've ever written of a podcast. We would appreciate it. Tell all your friends to listen to this show every week. We'll be back next week with another episode of Moving Right Along. Goodbye.
Woo,
bye.
Lovey-dovey.